Thousands of votes are found for Trump. Angus Campbell drops a Bombshell Afghanistan report, and Facebook colludes with Twitter to censor dissent. This is The Arc with Riccardo Bosi. Riccardo, good to see you again this week.
Morning, Joel. We were in fine spirits until Angus spoke, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, we were literally about to air. We had a whole segment planned. We had some great stuff planned for you, and then we pretty much had to shift it all around because Angus Campbell decided to come out with some of these findings from this report. Now, Riccardo, we got your live reaction to that. What are you thinking?
Failure of leadership. Nothing more, nothing less. A failure of leadership, and this is what people don't get about the military. And I'll mention a few things, and we'll talk in more detail later. But understand this: this is not, as Ross Cameron famously said, the HR department of the ANZ Bank. A military commander has a unique role. It has no parallel anywhere. And to draw ridiculous conclusions from civilian life into the military does nobody any service. Now, that's been done at a couple of levels. Good old old mate Angus has very quickly telegraphed exactly who's going to be held to account and who might slip away quietly, because he indicated that the commanders bore a moral responsibility. The implication being maybe not a legal responsibility. So he threw that up first. You got to forgive me because I've got so many things coursing through my veins at the moment. Most of it's not very nice. It is a failure of leadership, a lack of moral courage of every commissioned officer and commander. Because when we talk about culture in the military, the commanding officer, the platoon commander, the squadron commander, the company commander, the regimental commander, sets the culture. This isn't a kumbaya, hold your hands moment. That unit reflects the commander's attitude and intent. And any commander that allows the troops to get away with anything has to bear responsibility. Now, there's leeway when a commander lets things slide. I get that. But the people of Australia have to understand a military commander is not a chief executive of an organisation. And it's certainly not a communist organisation where you have a Politburo member attached there, the political officer, to keep you on track. That's an awesome responsibility. That's why they get these wonderful awards just for doing their job. So let's get the first things first. Those who have done illegal acts and committed murder, hold them to account. No problem with that at all.
Yeah, one of which being blooding.
Absolutely.
As an example.
Unacceptable. I got that. No problem. Hang them out to dry. Having said that, people deciding not to know, you take command of any size organisation in the military, it'll turn around on the strength of your character and your moral qualities, as well as the technical aspects. But as we know, character first, competence second. Character first. And what I heard Angus say today indicates that the upper echelons are protected, the diggers will be cashiered, and the contributing factor of multiple rotations without dwell time. Well, if Angus and Rick, whom I know personally, knew their job, it goes back to World War II even. How many missions, for example, did Bomber Command send their pilots and their crews on before they could retire, they could go back home? And it was unknown. And they didn't have an academic bloody study to do it. They went to war and they came up with a number of 30. If you survived 30 missions, then that was it, you'd served your time. But not these guys, they just kept rotating them through. And on top of that, once I said this before on Outsiders with Rowan Dean, if you do enough non-standard operations, and they know what I mean by that, it starts becoming standard in the mind of the diggers. So there is a direct legal complicity by the commanders who have built their careers and their promotions on the backs of acts that the soldiers did and they should have known about if they didn't. So there's a failure of leadership and a failure of moral courage. Let's just mention a couple of other things. So I made some quick notes.
Yeah, by the way, guys, that previous conversation on Sky News, I'm going to put that in the YouTube description at the top, so check it out.
Okay, we spoke about rotations and too many tours in quick succession. Oh, the poisonous culture between SASR and commandos. Well, happy coincidence, I was there when the 2nd Commando Regiment was established, and it was, well, I certainly understood, and others did too, that these two units had to have an extremely close and amenable relationship with each other. But we knew that egos got in the way, and so it had to be managed well. Well, I put it squarely on the shoulders of the Commander Special Operations Command and the 2 regimental commanders. for the poisonous relationship between the two, and the subsequent commanders as well, because they saw it happening back then. It was poisonous. It was competition. You know, SAS didn't like the commandos taking over the counter-terrorist role for the East Coast. Tactical Assault Group East. Nonsense stuff. It should have been seen. It was seen, and we actually instituted and drafted plans for personnel rotation to make sure that the two units worked closely together, and they understood that there was a process between the two of them. None of it was done, and that wasn't Trooper Smith's problem. That was Lieutenant Colonel X and Lieutenant Colonel Y, and in those days, Brigadier and later Major General X and Y. So none of these problems just don't, as I said on Dean's show, they don't happen in isolation. They were highlighted, no action was taken, and now the logical consequence of the failure of leadership going back at least 20 years has borne fruit. And what are they doing? They're cashiering the diggers, and the officers are being managed administratively. Give me a break.
How many questions did he get? And he just completely dodged it.
He just didn't want to answer the questions. Warrior culture. Let's talk about warrior culture. It was used by Justice Burton as the implication it was negative. Well, I dare to disagree with the good Justice Burton. A warrior is one who fights for a moral cause. They are built to do it. Just like lawyers are lawyers in their heart of hearts, soldiers are soldiers in their heart of hearts. And a warrior, not a mercenary, a warrior fights for a moral cause. Now, this is a slight. This is an attempt to undermine the very ethos of an army, because I can tell you this. You need a bit of ego to be the first one through the door. You have to believe that you're not going to be shot. It is like no profession on the planet. And these pumped up imposters that sit in judgment, you'll forgive me if I get a little bit warmed up.
But while we enjoy the safety of it, you know.
Let's not forget the government's role in all of this. Let's go back in time. Let's go the Wayback Machine. Let's go on the Wayback Machine. Ask any Prime Minister for go back half a dozen PMs and ask them what the military strategic end state in Afghanistan was. Produce the paper that recorded our military strategic end state in Afghanistan. Just print it out. There's no problem with it. It's not secret. It's not top secret. It's not even confidential. What's our military strategic end state? And I'll tell you what, you won't find it. You know why? They never gave us one. And the imbeciles in command of the Defence Force never asked for one. The end state's quite simple. It's the metrics by which you know you have succeeded in your mission. But they didn't have one. Let's talk about rules of engagement. What were the rules of engagement? So restrictive that soldiers were afraid to shoot in case they were accused of war crimes, and if they didn't shoot, they risked being killed. Let's examine the governments. Let's go back to Malcolm Turnbull and his drip feeding of some of the allegations coming out to undermine the SAS specifically, the ADF generally, and get the Australian population on side to neutering our capability for self-defence.
Hang on, let me get this straight though.
Go on.
Afghanistan, you guys still don't know why you were over there. You don't know what the strategic objective was, the end state was, to this day.
Well, ask Koshi. He thought it was a women's rights issue. And yet, what have Australian soldiers fought and died for? To establish an Islamic republic where women are stoned to death for adultery if they are raped. And think about the reality of all of this. Should we be there? Absolutely we should have been there. Because in the first years, it was very clear it was to destroy terrorist bases. Nothing wrong with that. But this nonsense of making the Defence Force a nation-building tool is a joke. Yeah. Defence forces are there to deliver lethal force against an adversary who refuses to negotiate. So diplomacy goes to a point, and after that point you kill people. That's it. That's what it's for. And if people don't like that, tough.
Yeah.
The world is a mean and nasty place. It ain't nice. And now what we've got is a Chief of the Defence Force, in my opinion, that is quite rightly going to hold the diggers to account, and quite wrongly is going to give everybody else a pass. Because my question, before I knew he was coming on here, was how high will this go? How high will responsibility go? Are we going to apply the Yamashita principle that we spoke of previously?
Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
Are we going to go down to the commanders of the Special Operations Task Groups? I don't know. Maybe they're part of the same club. Maybe they're, I don't know. You tell me. Are we going down to the commanding officers of the Special Air Service Regiment, the 2nd Commander Regiment, squadron and company commanders, troop and platoon commanders? See, when everyone bears responsibility, nobody bears responsibility. And this nonsense of collective responsibility in the unit, which has prompted Angus to, he indicated he's going to ask the Governor-General to withdraw the unit meritorious citation for the unit between operations 2003 and whenever. Collective responsibility, really, Angus. Where's that in the Defence Force Discipline Act, Angus and Rick? And I know you're both nice guys. You can never quite see the big picture, but nice guys, good for following orders. Not too bright, just nod and I'll just tell them what to do, they'll do it. So where's collective responsibility, Rick? Where's collective responsibility, Angus, in the Defence Force Discipline Act? You can't pluck that one out. Now, there are soldiers that served honourably throughout, and you're penalising them as well.
Yeah.
See, this is, in my opinion, this is just a bit of theatre.
Yeah.
So the people and the media believe that firm action's been taken. They've had their medals taken away.
Yeah.
Really? Really, Angus? You poltroon. You moral coward. You haven't got the stones to do what you're paid to do, mate. And neither do your subordinates. And now you've got you, Rick Burr, and I don't know, Adam Findlay, the Commander Special Operations Commander, I don't know him personally. You're going to manage this process? You've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
You want to play this game, Angus? Either you're the commander and you do what's got to be done under your actual authority, but no, you want to spread responsibility around. Well, I'll tell you what, if you want to go down that path, which I think is wrong, you do your job. As the Chief of the Defence Force, it's been investigated. These people are being charged. Get on with your job, Angus. Do your bloody job. Rick Burr, same thing. Do your bloody job. Now, you want to have a little committee now. Now, they're getting Adam Findlay to manage the process of providing advice on Special Operations Command. Adam Findlay is the Commander of Special Operations Command. That's his job. It's like having a mechanic who's paid to look after your car, and the car breaks down, and you say to the mechanic, you know what, I'm going to appoint you to fix my car. It's your job. You failed, all three of you, and your predecessors, and you haven't got the stones. Here's a prediction. Not one senior officer is going to be even questioned.
Take it to the bank, guys. Take it to the bank.
So that's just my initial take on it.
Yeah.
I'll have a look in further detail down the track. But
yeah. And we will obviously have more info on it.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've just seen kabuki theatre. You really have.
If you guys are wondering why Riccardo's so worked up about it, and rightfully so, think about each profession that you guys are in. You know, I came from the building industry. If I saw something being built in a certain way, and the stakes are high in building, not compared to the military, but compared to most industries, it's pretty high in building. People can die. Poor practices have led to that in the past. You've got to be very strict. If I see something going wrong, and I know I'm going to be liable for it, and I know other people are going to be liable for it, you can tell I'm going to get worked up. That's Riccardo right now. Imagine you're a doctor. Imagine you've got your own profession where you know it, and you know that there are people trying to pull the wool over the eyes of other people. That's what's going on right now. And I'm just so grateful that we've got you, Riccardo, to sort of guide us through it, because this is an area you're way more familiar with. And I mean, what the hell do I know about it? I'm a civilian. I'm 23 years old. What would I know about this? For all I can hear, it sounds like he handled that quite well and exactly how I'd expect it. But evidently not, because we've been talking about this, and you said, Joel, how high will the responsibility go? I didn't realize how right I was I think a year ago when I said to you, this is a rebellion against the establishment. It is through and through. It is through and through. I mean, the elites of these organizations, what we're seeing in the military right now, the diggers are going to be completely thrown under the bus. Good people that have served the country, lumped in with some of these despots that did some blooding and this and that. For those of you who don't know what blooding is, how would you describe it? I don't quite have the words to describe.
It's not uncommon in third world shitholes. In fact, I told you last week when I was in PNG, I was trying to straighten up a company of PNG soldiers, where the officer commanding had every one of his new soldiers shoot an unarmed person, so there was a blood tie between all of them, so nobody could come back and rat on what was going to happen after that. That's not a warrior ethos.
Yeah.
That's a murderer. That's a scumbag. That's a mercenary. That's a, fill in the blank. It's got nothing to do with being a warrior. It's got nothing to do with being an Australian soldier.
Yeah, interesting. So, guys, sorry for the slight change of program, but you can understand why we're a little bit worked up after just watching the. He didn't even answer any questions, guys, honestly. And this is what kills me, because you get the media there, ABC reporting, Channel 7 reporting, and they don't even push back, you know? Like, if I was there with Monica Smith and I asked a question, I have no doubt that if my question wasn't answered, Monica Smith would back me up and say, hang on, can you clarify that point? How high is this going up? How high is the responsibility going up?
Can I give you an example how that press conference should have run? My name is X. I'm the Chief of the Defence Force. I'm responsible for the Defence Force. We've got this report. Serious allegations have been made. I am now going to commence the charging of individuals that are implicated in this result, and regardless of rank, they will be held to account. You'll be kept informed. If somebody did something wrong, they will be charged. If somebody failed in their duty and something was wrong under their command, under the Defence Force discipline, they will be charged. And I don't care how high it goes, ladies and gentlemen. I'll keep you informed. There you go. Next question. That's what should have been said. Not this bureaucratic political doublespeak and kabuki theatre and removal of medals and definitions of warrior ethos. Angus, you're a massive disappointment, mate. And Rick, you know better.
Let's move on, guys. There's a lot to cover today, and I fear it might be our longest segment. Today is, as you can see, I'm looking particularly Afghanistani today. I'm looking for a segue. This is the only one I can find, Rick. It is November, and today also happens to be, because we record on Thursdays, today also happens to be International Men's Day. And as I said last week, mental health is very important to me. I know friends which have struggled with it. And I want you guys to all consider the importance of mental health, not only for the people around you, but this attack we've seen from third wave feminists about men having all this privilege. How much privilege do men have with an 80% suicide rate? 85% of homeless people are men. 79% of homicide victims are men. 40% of domestic abuse victims are men. Yet there's not one organisation for domestic abuse against men. Men are the majority of victims of violent crimes. On average, they serve 64% longer terms in prison. Men on average are 3.4 times more likely to be imprisoned than women when both committed the same offences. Where's the wage gap? Where's the wage gap, people? 93% of workplace fatalities are men. That's why they make more, by the way. That's one of the reasons, because it's more dangerous. There's a premium. 17% of sexual assault victims are men. You see, it happens, guys. It does happen. 1 in 6 men have reported experienced emotional abuse by a partner since the age of 15. Men who enlist in the army must complete 2 years more than the minimum for women. Only men are subject to conscription in some countries. On average, men live about 6 years less than women. Men are more likely to be uninsured than women. Men have higher death rates for most leading causes of death, including cancer, heart disease, diabetes, suicide. 1 in 2 men will develop cancer. About 52 men each day are diagnosed with prostate cancer. Men make half as many physician visits as women for preventative health. Nearly 50% of fathers without any visitation rights still financially support their children. Isn't that insane? 50%, and they can't see their children. 97% of war fatalities are men. Statistics on boys: 5 times more likely to end up in juvenile detention. 85% grow up without a father. That's terrible. They've got a 4 times the higher rate of suicide than girls. 2 times more likely to be diagnosed with ADHD. 70% of failed grades at school are boys. 50% are more likely to fail reading grades. And 50% are more likely to be victims of violent crime. All that male privilege. But I thought the gender was a construct. So all those statistics came from Evelyn Ray posted them this morning, and Evelyn's a lovely writer at Cauldron Pool. She does some phenomenal work. Go follow her, guys, on Facebook and Instagram. She's phenomenal. But I guess this goes to the root of the thing, guys. It's look out for your friends, especially your mates. I'm not telling you to go help randoms. I'm telling you to just do. If everyone's supported, everyone knows someone they can help. That's the point. And if everyone did that, then we wouldn't need all of these charities, we wouldn't need all these government handouts, and we could spend money on things that aren't wasting money, basically. I think there was something that came out saying suicide and mental health costs the Australian economy $300 billion a year or something crazy like that. But let's move on, guys. One of the KPIs for this podcast, and we're doing very well, guys, very well. One of the KPIs is how many hate comments we get. And you're going to love this one, Rick. So this is from a guy that created a YouTube account. I love this. He named the YouTube account just after me, Joel Jammal is a stooge. I am so honored by this, that he went to the effort of creating, with an email, a YouTube account with my name in it. I love it. More of this, please. But what they don't realize, I don't think he realizes this, I can see every comment he's ever written on any of my videos. It all lists it. So you tell me what this is like. And this guy called Drew Pavlo in Queensland, he cops a lot of hate from the Chinese, the Chinese Communist Party people. And this is the sort of comments we got. China number 1, Australia number 99999. China number 1, another comment. What's with these 2-minute clips? We demand full content, not sound bites. I think he missed the fact we did a 2-hour conversation last week, which all got uploaded.
Can I have a quick comment
on that? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Friend here, China number 1. No, he's right. He's right. They fry live dogs more than we do. So they are the number 1 culture on the planet that fries dogs alive for eating. They're the number 1 culture on the planet that feeds live tadpoles to their kids. Now, obviously not everybody, but just check it out on YouTube. I'm not making it up. So generally you and I bitch slap the Chinese Communist Party because it's a criminal cartel run by that chief criminal Xi Jinping, and that's fair enough. And we leave the culture more or less alone, and people say all cultures are equal. No, they're not. Promise you they're not. Did I ever tell you about the cat I got fed in Afghanistan?
No.
I can't remember that. Yeah, I didn't know.
Jeez, wow.
Oh, yeah. So, no. So, well, cultures aren't equal. And frying dogs alive and feeding live tadpoles to your kids or biting some... And you can get the videos, biting toads or frogs, biting disgusting organs out of them while they're alive. Yeah, all fun. So all cultures not equal, folks. So Mr. China number 1, yeah, you're right, but not in anything we want to win a gold medal in, that's for sure.
Jesus. Keep the comments up, guys. That's what keeps me going in the week. That really lightens my...
Come on, there's got to be a better hate comment than that.
Riccardo, there were more. That was my favourite. I hadn't seen someone create an account just for me. That really touched my heart. I was like, that's beautiful. So more of that, more fake accounts. Thank you for the comments. That actually works into the algorithms to promote the videos more. I don't think you realize that. And keep sharing these things, guys. As I said before, 340,000 views on our interview last week, which has only been out for 5 days. Normally they're out for 7 days. That's phenomenal because that brings our total up to a little over 1.5 million views aggregate. You were
hoping for 1.2 and you got 1.5. I think we might be hitting the sweet spot, Joel.
I think so too, guys. So we're doing something right. I'm trying to work out what, but we're doing something right. I promise I'll keep being transparent with you guys. But I want to talk about the US election. Oh my gosh. It has been insane. So there has been a number of counties in Georgia. Now, Georgia, guys, here's the map to remind you of where we last left things off last week. That video got 80,000 views for our rundown of the states. Now, there are these swing states. There are these states here where things are still up in the air. We've got Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. Now, this week, we particularly had quite a few revelations come out of Michigan, 16 electoral college votes, and Georgia. In Michigan, very fascinating things have been happening, but Georgia's the one I want to touch on particularly. Georgia, they found, Riccardo, in 3 counties, thousands of votes.
Go on, I can't believe it.
It was completely, none of us were going to expect this.
No, absolutely not.
So previously, guys, just as a reminder, we've been told that it doesn't matter if you have a recount. The most the biggest precedent we have is them finding a few hundred votes. You know, in the case of Al Gore in the 2000 election, they found 1,300 votes. That was the most they found from an audit. So they're just like, that's the record. You're not going to beat it. They found over 3,000 votes uncounted in this place. But just to put it into perspective, guys, before they found these votes, Donald Trump was trailing Joe Biden by 14,000 votes. So this is close. And this is only in 3 counties. Now, in these 3 counties, they are Floyd, Fayette, and Walton County. Now, in the Floyd and Fayette County, they found 2,755 votes, and that ended up giving Trump a net gain of 800. So Trump got over 60% of the vote in that area, yet they just found it. They just lost it. Now, the reason why it went missing, it's being blamed as human error, where a memory card from one of these automatic counters was found and it wasn't uploaded. The data wasn't uploaded. What a convenient mistake.
I'm shocked.
Like, isn't it strange all these things flow in one direction?
Oh, yeah.
You're not shocked at all. Now, Walton County, they're another county in Georgia, 284 votes. The problem there was due to votes being previously uploaded from one of the 2 ballot scanners, they forgot to upload the other one. Now, they found a number of votes there for Trump as well. So as it stands, the 14,000 vote lead that Biden had has been reduced down to 12,633. Now, you might say, Joel, so what? This doesn't matter. He's still won by 12,633 votes. What are you saying? And I said, okay, this is 3 counties. There are 159 counties in Georgia. And look at the map, guys. How many of them are red? Just 3 of them? Just 3 of them were for the Donald? No, there's over 100 for Donald Trump there. Now, if they were all blue, then I'd say, okay, whatever, we're not going to see anything, but they're all red. We need to look into this. We need more results. Otherwise, a ton of people are going to feel disenfranchised. We can't have that. So that's Georgia. Lightning striking 3 times, which has never happened. Donald Trump's broken the record from the Al Gore case in Florida. And then this just came out. Georgia election. Monitor finds 9,626 votes in a voting error by a hand recount. Now, before you guys freak out, this doesn't affect the current vote. Trump will still currently be on 12,366 votes. This was found before those counts. So it's very good that he found this. Otherwise, Biden would have found to be had 9,000 more than what he has right now. So this is very good that he found it, and he just happened to find this by chance. One of our monitors discovered this error in the DeKalb County hand count. One batch was labeled 10,707 votes for Biden and 13 for Trump, as improbable margin even by their standards. Schaefer said an actual count for the batch was 1,081 for Biden, 13 for Trump. So you can see he just added a few extra a 0 on, and then that's where the 9,000 came from. So criminal, but it's good that someone was doing their job. It just makes you wonder how many of these things are going unnoticed. That's not even the biggest news. So yesterday evening, the county board that certifies the Michigan results refused to certify the results. The state board they were hoping that the board would follow suit. So, in order, guys, for these results to be passed on, it has to be certified by the certifiers. There's 4 of them. Now, 2 of them are Republican, 2 of them are Democrat. Now, the two that didn't certify it, they said, we're not certifying it. This is just, we can't certify it. This is just terrible. It's not reliable at all, and we can't put our name to this. They got doxed. For those of you who don't know what doxing is, their public information got released, their addresses got released, people were visiting their homes, and then they reversed the decision.
They reversed the decision.
They reversed the decision.
What a surprise. Is that interfering in an election result? Is that collusion to change the result of the will of the people, do you think, Joel?
I think that there's some questions to be asked. They negotiated. That's what they were saying. They said we'll certify the results as long as you guys agree to certify. If there's an audit, if you guys audit it, we'll certify the results. Basically, that's what they said. So I disagree. I mean, I think they should have stuck to their guns.
Moral courage, mate. There's a shortage of it everywhere.
Exactly, and the same. One of the school I went to, what was their mantra was "Fortiter et fideliter" in Latin, meaning bravely and faithfully. Mate, that is in short supply right now. Bravery and faith. Oh my gosh. So, Republicans, you've got to stick up for yourselves. You had a 1 million person march in Washington this week. The people are behind you if you'd only do it. Just wanted to add one piece of information to this, guys. A couple hours after we recorded this with Riccardo, I'm just in the middle of editing this video for you guys, and it turns out that the county in Michigan, the electors, they actually flipped again. So now they're not going to certify the result. They actually changed their mind. So it's really good. This is great. That means they're not bowing to the mob, and they can see that the people are around them. But keep watching. Moving on.
Just before we do,
yeah,
we still on the election?
Yeah.
Okay, dump and roll. Politico reported the process by which the Democrats managed to, or tried to persuade people of the dodgy result and persuade them that the dodgy result was in fact correct. Let's take Georgia, for example, and there was several states where this applied. And you go to the Politico website because it breaks it down state by state and you look at the actual numbers, but here's the meta process at work. So Trump's well in advance, well in the lead, they stop counting. The next time the count opens for public scrutiny, Biden's in front by a margin, and whatever that margin is, let's say it was 0.5%. Every batch of new votes counted, allegedly counted, kept the margin at 0.5% all the way through. Now, this same pattern occurred in multiple states. So Trump's ahead, they stop voting, they stop counting.
Yep.
Next time they open the numbers, Biden's ahead, and the margin remains the same with every batch. It's just a click of the digital data to make sure. So it looked like, oh no, Biden's only 2.5% in front, but he's maintaining his lead. He never had the lead in the first place. So it's dump and roll. So check out the Politico website. Very good, very sharp. Yeah. And it just helps you understand how they do this stuff. Yeah, and Politico is not Trump friendly, guys. They're just doing a good job there. And Dominion, guys, is something that's come up this week. It's an insane program that's been counting all these votes. It's used in Venezuela. I mean, that should tell you all you need to know. I know. I know. It's Venezuela. I know, as used. Oh God. Okay. Anyways, so nothing against Venezuelan people. It's just I don't trust the government there. I can see how they'd find Dominion products. Well, I don't know why they should, because what was Hugo Chavez, the former president of Yugoslavia, who was boosted by our very own Adams. What's his name? ABC Adams. Can't even remember. He's an irrelevance. His family fortune was in the billions. The country, one of the richest oil countries on the planet, Venezuela, the people haven't got food, medical supplies, and Hugo Chavez, Philip Adams, that's him. Yeah. Hugo Chavez died a multi-millionaire, and so did his family. So there's communism in action, folks. Communism in action. That's insane. So we've got all these things, the wall's closing in on the Biden administration. So not the Biden, the office of the president-elect, which doesn't exist. So the walls are closing in on him. Now, guys, there's two people that are spearheading all of these investigations and all of these allegations of fraud, but not fraud. It's actually electoral impropriety. And I say that because fraud is a very different thing. Trump keeps saying fraud, 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 and the media are going for it. And this is a 4D chess move, guys. And I don't say this very often, but by Trump saying fraud, the media are not paying attention to what he's actually doing. The lawsuits aren't going after fraud. They're going after electoral impropriety, which is what all of these examples I just listed fall under, not fraud. Fraud is when you intend to actually do it and you change ballots manually. That's very hard to prove.
electoral impropriety, which where all these irregularities come up. That's what we saw in Michigan. That's what we saw with these votes being found out of nowhere. Now, Sidney Powell is one of the lawyers. She's an excellent lawyer that's tackling this.
Is she the one that's releasing the Kraken?
Yes, she is the one.
There you go.
And Rudy Giuliani is also, he used to be the mayor of New York. He took down the mafia in New York quite eloquently. They're both spearheading this investigation and the coordinating all of these lawsuits. They've made some massive hires around the country. And the media keeps going after these fraud things. They're not paying attention to what Trump's actually doing, but they're like a bull, and Trump's, like the dancing with the bull. And it's excellent. It's excellent to watch. It's masterful.
Definitions count.
They really do. And Sidney Powell pretty much made it very clear in no uncertain terms. I mean, guys, you tell me what this sounds like. She said it would be beneficial for Joe Biden to concede the race before he incriminates himself for widespread electoral fraud that could put him behind bars for the rest of his life. That doesn't sound like someone who's losing.
Nope.
You might be right, Riccardo, on this. This will be interesting in a month or so. Remember, the 14th of December. That is the date. That is when we find out. I'm sure they'll find a way to extend it, but...
And just to explain something else to the viewers, the Electoral College, that collection of individuals actually provide the vote that anoints the president.
That's right.
Now, the Electoral College is actually a bunch of people. And as Joel pointed out earlier, they are actually not bound by the the vote in the state. They are appointed by the state, and then they can vote.
Yeah.
And so this, if anybody thinks that this is a lay-down misère for Biden, you don't know the system.
They don't.
Trump's boys and girls do. They know exactly how to play this.
That's right.
Trump will be president.
Exactly. The electors, that'll be very interesting. And they're I think 52%, I mean, we don't trust polls, but 52% of the Republican Party have said they support what Trump's doing with this, because this is why the electoral system was set up that way. It's not a democracy, guys. The word democracy doesn't come up at all. It's a constitutional republic. This is very important, and it's certainly something that we might have to look at in Australia, because democracy, as Riccardo said in the past, is two wolves discussing what to eat for dinner with the sheep. The sheep's going to get slaughtered, and that is what's going to happen to a lot of these minorities in these states, and that's why the popular vote doesn't matter. But let's move on. Just a reminder to you progressives, I did a big segment on this last week. The progressives have been screwed, all right? The progressives I listed 10 core values that the progressives have gone against and Biden convinced you against. So Biden hires big pharma, big oil, people to fill his administration after claiming he would be tough on those industries. Now, who could have guessed that, Riccardo? Who could have guessed that?
Oh, I'm shocked again. Shocked, I tell you. Shocked. Oh, please.
Oh, dear.
Now, did anybody hear this on the ABC? Has the ABC been reporting this? I wonder. Because, one of the board members, Joseph Gresh, recently wrote a piece. They must have taken a vote on the board, and he lost. He drew the short straw. He had to respond to Kenny of Sky News, his criticism of the ABC, saying it's beyond redemption. And he wrote a piece saying it doesn't need redemption. It's doing a great job. Yeah, no.
I think it was Anthony Albanese. They were talking about the looking into the Murdoch media empire.
Oh, Kevin Rudd, you mean?
Sorry,
it was Kevin Rudd. He wanted
Kevin Rudd and Malcolm Turnbull's been backing it a lot as well. I know, of course. It's like, look at these two. They ran against each other, and look at them. And look, I think it was Albanese. He was saying on Q&A of all places, he said, you know what? We can't have biased news sources. We need unbiased, like the ABC, And he gestured to the moderator, the young moderator they brought on. And I'm like, of all the bloody shows in Australia, this is not unbiased. Now, look, I don't care if it's unbiased. I actually don't. This is a very biased show, guys. And that's not the problem. Polarizing a country, that's not the problem. The problem is when it's just not factual what you're presenting. It's just not factual. It's when you say that you're impartial, but you're not impartial. You know, CNN is the most trusted name in news. Yet, did you hear this week they're going out of business?
No.
Because Trump's going. I keep telling them the Trump bump is going to go once he leaves. Why are you pushing so hard to get rid of him? He's great for ratings. You're in a dying industry. The New York Times has record subscribers right now. That's going to plummet when Trump goes. No one's going to want to read about Biden, you know, starting wars in the Middle East. They won't even write that. They'll write it in a aggrandizing manner. But anyway, guys, let's move on. I always consider what's going to happen in the event of the worst case scenario. If Biden gets in, one of the problems I've been saying for a very long time is that there are going to be repercussions for Australia. And as we saw last week with Scott Morrison, and Romeo Georges did a great show of what Scott Morrison looked like, calling Joe Biden and sucking up to him, basically. Brexit in the UK is also probably, as Nigel Farage has described it, in its darkest time right now. He's more pessimistic about Brexit than he has ever been in the last 10 years. And I did want to briefly look at what he had to say about that.
You can see right now that Brexit is in great peril. I think what you've seen over the course of the last week is the beginning of the end for Boris Johnson, the beginning of the end for a Conservative government that just a year ago got a majority of 80 and has done absolutely nothing with it at all. And I fear there are going to be more Brexit battles to fight in the years to come. I'm not going to stand by and just let this thing be, just run into the long grass for us not to get the benefits that Brexit should give us. I won't do that without standing up and fighting. I hope that you won't do that without fighting back as well. If I'm wrong, then tell me at the end of December that I'm an idiot and I should have trusted Boris all the way through. But I'll make this prediction right now. Brexit is in peril.
So this election does have repercussions. I think when Joe Biden was asked, "What do you I'm from the UK. What are your feelings about Brexit?" He said, "I'm Irish." Because the Irish are obviously they're not part of the they're a part of the European Union, and they're very staunch members. South Ireland, so it's not looking good. The UK, I still feel very pessimistic for you guys. There are a number of new parties that are rising. The Brexit Party is being rebranded very soon to tackle this. I think they're calling it something like the Anti-Lockdown Party or something like that. Very smart with the naming, and also. There's a new party that's risen with a star at the centre of it. It's making waves. It's called the Reclaim UK Party, I think, or Reclaim Party, and that'll be very fascinating to watch. But what are your thoughts to that, Riccardo?
I think we picked Boris as a busted flush before he was even elected. As we said previously, the mayoral position in London, being a mayor of London, is the test that you must pass before they let you become PM. So I had no expectation that Boris would do anything good. Behind the scenes, what non-Brits wouldn't know is they're passing a ton of bad legislation to do with lockdowns, to do with forced vaccinations, to do all sorts of things that we're trying to fight against here in Oz. So no, Boris Johnson's a busted flush, always was, always will be. And maybe that explains Nigel's prudent manoeuvre at the last election to withdraw just a fraction, let the Conservatives get in, let them reveal themselves to the population, and now Nigel's coming back with a repercharge now that the Conservatives under Johnson have revealed themselves, because as people keep being told, you can't tell people, you have to show them. To use a more practical explanation of that process, some people just have to piss on the electric fence for themselves. That was Roy Rogers. And some people just do. So you stand back and go, don't piss on that fence. It's electrified. Really? Let me try it. Feel free, mate.
Yeah.
And they won't do it a second time. So maybe that's what Farage's strategy was back at the last election. 10 out of 10. I caned him a bit, but maybe he could see what had to be done. So maybe he's been very canny, so good on him. Yeah. But we wish him all the best. Farage, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, point me to someone else over there that's been able to do what he's done. masterful guy. But I was initially suspicious of why he did that.
Yeah.
Because what happened, guys, he had candidates up and down the UK. And for those of you who don't know, that's over 500 candidates up and down the UK, every electorate in the December election last year. And he pulled out in a number of them, in most of them, actually. And he ended up just focusing on the Labour seats. And he ended up eating into the Labour vote so much because their preference votes are different, guys. We've got the most robust preference system here in the world. Over there, it's not like that. Your votes can be wasted. And over there, the Labour voters did put a lot of votes into Nigel, and that's where the Conservatives got in.
Can you imagine Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Nigel Farage, President of the United States, Donald Trump? Oh, what a combination. There's a chance. There's a chance for the world to be saved.
They'd actually get something done, you know?
Oh, man. All we need is somebody who knows.
Yeah. I wonder who can help us with that.
I don't know. I'll ring around, see if we can find somebody who might be available.
Yep. We'll see. I think it was Alan Jones speaking to Pete Evans, and that's a topic you could touch on. When Alan was saying Trump is the hope of the side, you know, he needs to get in November 4th. And then Pete's like, who do we have in Australia? And Alan said, well, no one, at least no one in Parliament, basically. And it's...
But that's the question, though. See, we can't... I've got to keep saying it. We can't wait for Trump to save us. We've got to do this ourselves. No matter who does it, we have to do this ourselves. You never base a plan on the hope that help will turn up. You know, the cavalry doesn't always turn up in the nick of time.
Yeah.
Right. When the cavalry turns up, they're going to find us sitting back having a barbecue and a beer saying, what took you so long?
Yeah.
That's what we want in Oz. Yeah, whoever does it.
The airstrike, well, there's one of the most unreliable things I've heard in the military. They're never on time.
Well, it's such a valuable asset. Whenever you plan a major assault, you always have as much air as you can. Because it's a rare asset, it's not surprising it gets pulled away at the last moment for a high priority mission. And we understand that. The guys on the ground get it. So you never base a plan based on the fact that the A-10s are going to turn up or the F-18s are going to turn up. No, you just don't. You plan on what you've got, what you can control, you take the position, and if the air comes, then that's great. If it doesn't, no problem.
Exactly. Australian exceptionalism, I would love to see that rise a bit more in the coming decades.
Oh, you will. Oh, watch this space. And just on that, last week I spoke about the method by which we're going to save Australia as A1. And we spoke about the purpose, which is to save Australia. We spoke about the end state, which is a sovereign, self-reliant Christian Western democracy, which is economically powerful, militarily intimidating, politically free, culturally vibrant, socially cohesive. And we've got to remember that because that's the prism through which we look at every problem. Now, the method, and I mentioned it, to create a moral political party that raises each citizen to its highest individual potential so that collectively we can contribute to the reformation of Australia. Yep. Now, that's a wonderful, high-sounding process, but how do you do that in a practical sense? Well, I told you, I'll be going around the country electorate by electorate, speaking to all the A1 groups, doing what I do for major corporates on leadership, strategy and innovation. So that's that part. And I've been in discussions this week with a very talented organisation, strangely enough, set up by an ex-military guy. There's something about soldiers, they're very, very effective. And he set up an organisation, and it's still functioning today. He initially used it to help soldiers with PSTD. He had a 90% success rate. They're off their meds and back at work. Now, isn't that fascinating? All the psychologists and psychiatrists are pumping him full of drugs and giving him nice advice. And he's a guy that's got solid academic and conceptual processes built into the system. He's got the technology that underpins it, and then it's delivered in a way where he gets results. Now, he's taken that and he's taken it global. Let me talk about this guy.
That's excellent.
I won't give the company name just yet, but in time you'll hear it. But they were consulting to an engineering firm. So these guys, engineers, right? And they're all of a certain age, let's say above 40-ish, so they've been in the job. And he was going to consult to this organisation. They had a turnover of 17 million. And one of his mates said, "Why bother? You can't teach an old dog new tricks." You know the old saying. And he said, "No, we'll do this. We can turn this around." And so they went in. He did have a spanner thrown at him at one point, apparently.
Yeah.
But in the time that they were there, I think it was about 18 months, they doubled the turnover to 34 million, and they increased it again to increase of $40 million a year. So there are techniques to get people that everyone else writes off. Right off the old hands, right off the people that are just a little bit too crazy or not crazy enough, right off the old folks. No, everybody gets a gig, everybody gets a seat at the A1 table. Everybody, and I'm going to keep saying it until people get into their heads. Sovereignty lies with every individual Australian, and it doesn't matter if you're a millionaire from Point Piper or a prostitute from Rockhampton.
Yeah.
Everyone is equal. And when people start to really get that here and understand that the country is them, that's the first step to getting the people to be able to actually reform the nation and create something that they want to leave their children and grandchildren. This is doable.
Wow.
You didn't hear that on the ABC, did you?
No.
No. Just tear your party dress, run around with your hair on fire, clutch your pearls. Yeah.
Even immigrants?
Even immigrants. We need as many as we can get.
Yeah. Are you sure, Riccardo?
I don't know. Hang on.
I've heard some racist comments
about...
Let me
just check my racist check.
Yeah,
bugger. I'm out of the club now. Please.
God damn it. I'm looking forward to you, battling with the media. Before we did the show, Riccardo, we watched this great video called "You Can't Barrage the Farage." Maybe I'll upload the Riccardo's reactions to that. But it's masterful. Watching Trump, watching yourself, because I saw what you wrote in what was written about you in the Sydney Morning Hamas newspaper, and watching Farage battle with the media. It's very entertaining to watch because no one likes the media. If you want to improve your rating, this is any politicians that are listening, and I know there's a few New South Wales senators that listen. If you want to improve your rating among the public, attack the media. Newt Gingrich did that in a presidential run a couple of years ago, and his approval rating skyrocketed. He was dead in the water in the polls. Attacked the media during a debate, skyrocketed.
Did I tell you about the ABC interview during the Eden Monaro by-election? I'm driving down to Canberra. I think we did about somewhere between 4,500 and 5,000 Ks in that period during the election, because the electorate is bigger there, right? And the ABC, for those that may not have seen that quote, the ABC, we want to do an interview, no problem. We'll call you back at whatever time. Okay. So we knew it was a setup. We just couldn't figure out what angle. But I was happy and smiling, and they were making all sorts of allegations. And, we use trusted sources. And I said, like who? Like the WHO, the World Health Organization. Really? The one that's run by the Ethiopian terrorist, communist terrorist? And the poor bugger. Yeah, I did say it. I do remember now. And you could tell the producers at the back were making slashing motions across their throat. For God's sake, stop talking. He's eating you alive. Because they're not all that clever. They're not all that bright. And when you're dealing with sort of, let's say, not the sharpest tools in the shed, they can make mincemeat of them. But they won't interview me, I promise you. Even if, I tell you, here's a promise, they won't. They certainly won't before I'm an MP, and after I'm an MP, and when we become the party of government, they still won't interview me, because it'll be too embarrassing. Yeah. Because they can't win. They're too dull. They're too thick. They're too blinded by the ideology. I'm just guided by the truth. It's real simple. Yeah. So it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it, but they won't bother doing it. Promise you, so don't hold your breath. Yeah.
We have to touch on what happened this week, guys. There was a situation with Pete Evans. His book was being targeted because he uploaded some image of some Nazi, some Nazi imagery. And what happened was the media were like, "Oh, he's a Nazi sympathizer and this and that." I'm like, marijuana advocate Pete Evans, that's a hippie. Are you serious? This guy, you're banning his cookbooks when you can buy Mein Kampf in the same stores. Are you serious? Are you kidding me? God. So Dimmicks banned it, basically got rid of all the books off the shelf, along with Kmart and Target. Well done, guys. Really punching up. Well done. Now, private companies, I don't care. You can do what you want. But everyone hates a bully. I really do hate that. And I don't see how his cookbooks are fascistic. I just can't work it out.
Wow. Talk about snap. Because when my book came out, somebody was interested to see how they were going, and they contacted me quite concerned and said, "I just read a review of your book, which was uncomplimentary." And I said, "Okay, well, that's life. Reviews are reviews." He said, No, but you don't understand. I contacted the bookshop and they said, "We don't stock right-wing authors." This thing, right-wing. And I just burst out laughing. Right. So a publisher rang up the other day and said, "We're out of print. What are you doing?" I said, "Well, we're just doing what we do." He said, "Oh, no, we put the order in and they're coming out now." And we asked, where's the draw? I said, "Well, it's all over the world, particularly the US. Big call for your book out of the US." Really?
Wow.
And so the publisher just so excited.
Yeah.
And he said, "Look, you need more, just let us know. We're going to do some hardbacks, and we'll do some hardbacks, let us know."
Yeah.
So this allegedly right-wing book by a right-wing author, which has nothing but, if you want a message in that, it's selflessness, it's truth, and it's so anyway, it's going great guns. So Pete, stick with it, mate. Your book will do well.
Yeah.
And ignore them. Don't sweat it. You'll be good.
It really is a because I've said in the past, it's Jordan Peterson from a military angle. That's all it is.
It's a handbook.
It's a handbook.
It's got definitions.
Yeah.
It's got. There's nothing. You're not left wondering.
You're really not, and it's hilarious for me to see this from them because they just see. Tim Pool had a great line this week. He said, "Reality has a right-wing bias."
I don't even know what that means, but it's funny.
The progressives are so deluded in their basis of reality. Professors are so disconnected with the repercussions of their theories, like communism, that they think that, it'll happen. There was something wrong, but it'll happen. It'll work next time, That is not reality, guys. That is why you shouldn't look down on the people that earn a living by the sweat of their brow every day working in the hot sun. Their opinions matter too, and you might find that their opinions are more in touch with reality than your own.
It's a salutary experience. We were talking about it before this show. Suffering, working, real-life challenges are salutary. And for the Greens listeners who aren't up to S in the dictionary, that means healthy. It's a salutary experience to be grounded, to be rooted to reality. If you don't eat and drink, you die. I must work to make money to buy food and drink. Now, when you bounce on that bottom, and I've done it a couple of times, I mentioned it, just businesses like that sometimes. The cash burn rate dives so fast and more cash doesn't come in and the thing, you're done. Once you bounce off the bottom, the first time it's terrifying. The second time you go, I can handle this. But it's terribly grounding. It's wonderful. It keeps it checks your ego, because ego is dangerous.
Yeah.
Now, ego, the good side of ego is that you trust yourself. That's fine. But the ego that puffs you up like a balloon can be punctured by a pin.
Yeah.
So that's not the helpful part. But what it does is, and it is important to sweat, to feel tired, to feel thirsty, to understand what pain is again. Because money, and I've had a lot of it, money buys you a sense of morality that's not real. Because take the money away and see how moral you are then. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing to suffer, to grow, to work.
Yeah.
It's necessary for health.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, guys, Pete Evans, I'm working on getting a book. I sent my, I won't say who, but I sent them to get a book and they went with their friend. Their friend was a bloke and he's quite progressive. And he asked the store, this is Dimmicks, this is yesterday, he asked the store, "Do you guys have any Pete Evans books?" And they were like, "Why would you want that?"
You're kidding.
Like, I don't know if you guys haven't worked in sales before, but the customer's always right. And you never say, "Why would you want that?" You answer the bloody question straight away so you don't lose a customer. You don't give them attitude. Anyway, they said that, and they were trying to find every reason why they'd want the book other than to read it and to use it. They were like, "Oh, you must be with media. You must be reporting on Pete Evans or this or that, because we've removed all the books." And this progressive, I'm so glad he asked, because he actually understood this guy. This is a cooking book. They're censoring a cooking book.
You know they're not censoring a cooking book. They're censoring Pete Evans. You know that. And by the way, I actually bought two. Joel asked me, "Have you got a Pete Evans cooking book?" I said, "I've got two of them." And I checked my cupboard, and then I remembered after I said, "I can't find it." And I remembered I actually gave them away. They're so good in terms of health, in terms of gut health, in terms, you name it. So, folks, find as many Pete Evans books as you can. Buy them for yourselves, because they're tremendous cookbooks for your own cooking. But give them as Christmas gifts this year. Pete, we wish you all the well, mate, and we hope that you've got to go into a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th reprint, because the popularity of your books is so sound. So we wish you well, mate. And seriously, vote, folks, buy Pete Evans cookbooks and give them as gifts this year. Yeah, and Riccardo is quite the cook himself, guys. You don't realise it. Riccardo does a lot of cooking. And, yeah, I mean, he's Italian. It does come naturally. It's in his blood. I would not be hesitant to do a sit-down with you and Pete Evans to talk about good gut health and then sort of and the dietary stuff and these different diets, because it can be quite a weeds topic. It'd be great to hear your thoughts. Oh no, it's fantastic. His book, he did a book with a vegetarian, with a vegetarian themed book with in order to optimize health. Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I'd love to chat to Pete about cooking, because it's, and here's something people don't know about cooking. You can follow a recipe and it tastes terrible. Somebody else follows the exact same recipe, does exactly what you do, but that person puts love into the process. The meal actually tastes better. Are you a wog? I'm a big wog. There it is. That sort of sounded like. But that's exactly right. You put love into your cooking, and it tastes better. Yeah. It's and if you want to get into the basis of that, it's not woo-woo stuff. It's just quantum theory. Consciousness creates. That's the source of all creation. It affects outcomes. And there's a famous experiment, quantum mechanics experiment, where the observed event changes the event. So consciousness impacting itself onto a quantum mechanical process actually affects the event. And you can look it up online. This is just pretty simple stuff. Is that similar to when you're trying to improve your basketball shot? You imagine you getting it in, and then you take the shot, and then you get it in. Is that completely different? It's different, but the same thing. You need to see, and it's a biblical principle, both of them. You know, if I speak with the voice of wisdom but have no love, I have nothing. That's an old biblical principle. So make sure you do what you do with love. Yeah. But without a vision, the people are lost. It's another biblical principle. They need to know what they're moving towards. They can see it. And then their consciousness literally starts to create the opportunities. It brings together what is required to achieve that goal. That's the whole manifestation trend that's been racing through the globe for the last many years. Yeah. In fact, American psychologist William James, in the latter part of the 19th century, I don't pin me to the actual year, said the greatest discovery of our age is man's capacity to change his future by a conscious act of free will. So none of this is new. It's not woo-woo. It's just, if you can read, stop watching the ABC, stop watching the commercial channel, stop watching My Kitchen Rules. Yeah. You know, God, I said it before, the internet, everything you can possibly want to know. Everything. And what do you spend your time doing? Porn. Taking photographs of food and porn. Yeah. You know? Okay. Folks, we're homeschooling our kids, and they know about tectonic plate movements. They know about bas reliefs. Because we do it all, but we just click on YouTube. Yeah. We find a sound source of data and information, and there you go. And they're learning more faster. Yeah. Because we don't rely on traditional methods. We check it ourselves. But consciousness cooking. Let's get back to Pete Evans. Yeah, mate, love to. Yeah, great. It'd be awesome. I reckon he's a wealth of knowledge. Yeah. Look, we've been putting this discussion off, not consciously. It just hasn't come up yet. Vaccines. That's right. We're talking vaccines. Now we're nearing closer and closer to these vaccines being completed and dished out to people. In the US, Trump has done a ton of deregulation in his Operation Warp Speed project to get the vaccine out before the end of the year. He said maybe even November. This is what he said earlier this year. And it looks like they're right on track. In fact, 2 companies came out and they've been trying to work against each other to get this vaccine across the line for COVID-19. And it's been absolutely entertaining watching people like Kamala Harris in the debate with Vice President Mike Pence talk about how they're the anti-vaxxers now in the UK, in the US. It's hilarious to watch.
But I've mentioned this before to you in the past, Riccardo. We've got a situation where we've got Donald Trump coming out with the vaccine in the US. Trump supporters mainly support it. They'll take it if they need to, but you've got the progressives being the anti-vaxxers. Yet in a place like Australia or the UK, there's a lot more of a more fervent opposition to vaccines because they don't try. Scott Morrison's not a Trump. Bojo in the UK, he's not a Trump. Yeah, and so you can see why people are opposed to vaccines. Isn't that strange though? Isn't it strange that, like, I guess what I'm saying is, does that make you think twice about do you trust a vaccine coming from the Trump administration more than the Biden administration? Is there nuance? Is there any vaccines that have actually helped at all?
No.
Not at all. Okay,
No.
See, this is a topic we haven't touched on because I feel like it does take a time to go
it does.
through.
There's a lot of lies about vaccines. The vaccines cause more deaths than the actual disease in some cases, and the record's there. And what we'll do is, I'll tell you what, next week we can put the data up if you wish. What we do know is this. No recent vaccine certainly has been double-blind tested, and double-blind means the person receiving it doesn't know whether it's a real vaccine. The person administering the vaccine doesn't know whether it's a real vaccine, because the placebo effect is measurable and real. That is, if you believe the pill will cure you, you will be cured. This is the power of the mind again.
Interesting.
So you show somebody some data that says 93% of all people that take this tablet once a week for 4 weeks will be utterly cured. There is a noticeable and measurable and real placebo effect, and they are literally cured. And then, strangely enough, and not strangely enough really, once some of them were told in this experiment, they were told it wasn't actually effective, they recontracted the disease and died. So if you want the power of the mind, it's real. It's there. But in terms of vaccines, no, there is no safe vaccine.
Yeah.
In fact, the British company that's producing the vaccine for us, apparently, I saw an image of the packaging the vaccine comes in. It just came out a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
And on the vaccine, it says the ingredients, and it has a series of codes because it's a short alphanumeric code to represent something else. You look it up, CMD025/1, and you just Google that, and it'll tell you what it actually is.
Yep.
Well, this vaccine has, that's the best way to describe it. It's basically replicated tissue from an aborted Caucasian fetus from 1960-something.
Well, what's the relevance of that?
Good question. Why are they injecting you with the tissue of aborted fetuses?
In 1967.
Well, whatever the year was, and I can't remember the exact date, but basically they get this tissue and then they just replicate it, and it's actually been genetically modified. The genome has been modified, and they're putting this stuff in. Now, Scotty from marketing wants to make this compulsory, but he doesn't want to make it compulsory. But it's not compulsory, but it might be compulsory. And then Greg Hunt jumps in and says, "No, it's not compulsory, but your life will be over if you don't take it." So there's a trustworthy kickoff.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, Scotty, you first. And I'm not. If I was nasty, say your daughter's first, but I'm not that cruel.
Yeah.
You first.
Yeah.
Because this stuff is poison. It also indicates that there's AI included in it. This is the packaging.
Yeah.
It actually has the AI to monitor the effectiveness of the...
Yeah, interesting.
So all the alleged theories about being injected with chips or being injected with heavy metals, being injected with aborted tissue from abort, it's all real. It's on the packaging. All you have to do is decode the ingredients. So no, Scotty, I won't be taking it. My family won't be taking it, and don't tell us we have to.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because this is, guys, if you haven't noticed already, this is a topic where Riccardo and I actually we don't see eye to eye on. So for those of you that think I'm a yes man, I'm definitely not. On the vaccination topic, it's a topic that I actually don't know enough about, and that's why I've got a very open mind to both sides on it. Now, I'd push back on that and saying, okay, Scotty, you first, maybe even your daughter's first. We have a very convenient situation where there was a vaccine in Russia, and Vladimir Putin did give it to his daughter. I mean...
Vlad's a KGB agent.
Yeah. Smoke and mirrors.
Honesty isn't a long suit. Now, I admire and don't admire Vlad Putin, just from a distance.
Yeah.
But please, don't fall prey to the show.
Okay.
Please. if the vaccines, and here's the stupidity of it, you know, somebody in South Australia had a cough and now the whole state's shut down again.
Yeah.
Quarantine the sick, open up the states, open up the country. It's pretty straightforward. Quarantine the sick. If you want a vaccine, take the vaccine. But the government should make sure it is both effective and safe. Prove its efficacy, prove it, and prove its safety. And until that is done, you can't pay the pharmaceutical companies billions and billions and billions of your money on their say-so.
Yeah.
Give me a break. Forget it. In the US, I'm not sure exactly how it works here, but certainly in the US, they are, in fact, Scotty has said the company will be immunised, will be protected from damages claims. Yeah, pharmaceutical company and protected from damages claim. There's a good combination. That won't be taken advantage of at all, will it? And so it's certainly in the US and certainly now here in Oz, they won't be penalised if it causes problems. And just going back, I was doing we do our Zoom meetings, and this week we'll be doing New South Wales and ACT. Previously we did Victoria and Queensland. 2 hours every night. Join in if you want to watch. Ask me any question on any subject. And so we were doing the Zoom meeting, we were talking about vaccinations. And we said that. We said, if you want a vax, take a vax.
Yeah.
But if you don't want a vax, don't take a vax.
Yeah. And
you shouldn't be locking down the entire country because one person's got a cough.
Yeah.
Just immunise.
Yeah.
Immunise those that want it. But it should be safe, it should be effective, and it should be proven.
Yeah, proven, absolutely.
But they're not. None of them are proven. That's why they have to immunise it. And so when somebody gets sick in the US, the government pays the damages.
Yeah.
That's going to happen here. And then somebody asked me on this exact question on the Zoom meeting, well, don't you ever read any peer-reviewed articles? You know, the implication being that, you know, I just scanned the front line of a tweet and based my whole theory on that. And I said, yeah, I do actually. And I also read things like Lancet magazine. Lancet is, you know, the medical journal of repute, the record. That's the one. And then I said, yeah, I read Lancet too, but Lancet had an editor which was a communist with an agenda. Grow up, kids. Don't trust anybody. Don't trust me. Don't trust Joel. Don't trust the ABC. Don't go do your own research and make your own mind up. This is what adulthood is.
Yeah, yeah. Nuance.
You make up your own mind, and if you're right, 10 out of 10. And if you're wrong, you take the hit and take responsibility.
That's right.
You know, that was my fault because I made a decision based on the best available evidence, and I cocked up. That's on me.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, look, it's certainly a topic I'm still exploring. There was a number of things this week where it's just like, okay, I've got some serious questions about this. One of the things I saw was in the US, we had Dr. Fauci saying, even if the vaccine comes out and you take the vaccine, you still have to wear a mask. There should be a mandate on that. Did you hear that?
Yeah. But Fauci's also said, don't lock down. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask. Take the vaccine, don't take the vaccine.
Don't close the border.
Don't close the border.
To China.
Close the border.
Yeah, bloody ScoMo and his travel bubble he wants to do with China. My God.
How long before people wake up and realise they're being played?
Yeah, it's not just being played. They're actually making fun of your intellect while doing it.
Oh, they're taking the mickey.
Yeah, they really
They actually laugh.
Like, how much could we push them? That's the thing.
Have you seen the new masks? And it's beautiful, black with gold and lace. It's beautiful. You know, it looks like an Islamic face covering.
It does. It actually does. Yeah. And if what they say is true, it can go through the eyes, guys. So there's that, and also on top of that, I was listening to a great video. I can't believe I didn't chuck it in this week, but it was this guy, this expert, because the science is not a monolith, guys. There are other experts that have other topics. You know, Newton didn't prove, you know, his theories because a number of hundreds of scientists signed petitions against him saying his theories were wrong. It's not a science. If you can prove it by fact, if you can say this is right and you can replicate that, that is the scientific method. Okay? It's not a democracy. It's not a democracy. One of these scientists was saying an effective vaccine is one that proves that you can improve the survivability rate. Now, if you have, what numbers did he have? If you have 5 in 10,000 that die from this virus, I don't know if that number's right, but let's do, for an example, 5 in 10,000, and you improve that to 3, how is that an improvement if you have the vaccine? It's not a significant enough improvement to warrant that. It's such a weak virus. It affects some people in strange ways where it looks like their lungs have been punctured. But we can't predict that. If you've got underlying conditions, of course you're susceptible. If you're elderly, of course you're susceptible. But we can't lock down the whole bloody society, as and this leads into our next topic, as we're seeing in South Australia. 6 days to slow the spread. South Australia is going into 6 days of lockdown. Stephen Marshall, the Premier, has announced this. South Australia, it's your time to step up. We have one federal Liberal MP in South Australia. His name's Tony Payson. He's criticised the shutdown as an overreaction. He said that South Australia should copy New South Wales and live with the virus. Gladys Berejiklian has been managing outbreaks of equal, if not greater numbers, and she's moved not once to lock the economy down, Mr. Payson said. What are your thoughts?
The death rates of COVID have been falsified. There's actually a picture where a COVID death was defined as anybody who died from any cause if they had COVID in the last 28 days.
Yeah.
So if you had allegedly were contracted with COVID and you fell off a ladder and broke your neck, that's a COVID death. So you're being lied to. Point number one. And we've said this 100,000 times.
George Floyd, guys, he had COVID when he was killed.
There you go. So there's a COVID death. And so the numbers are wrong. The reaction is wrong. We know that. You don't shut down. And your analogy of a 0.002% improvement is not worth the cost. We have suicides every week. We have motor vehicle accidents every week. And they're all killing a whole lot more people. We don't shut down the economy. We don't stop drivers driving because people are dying.
Yeah.
I'm not being callous. I'm just saying the cost is out of control. But again, that's the point. The whole point of this, there's no point arguing the facts because nobody wants to know the facts. Scott Morrison, the premiers, are destroying our economy under orders, in my opinion. That's what's going on. It doesn't matter. And they pretend to have this game, and now it's South Australia's premier's turn to shut down the state for the good of the people. Oh, give me a break. Every couple of weeks, every couple of months, I say, I'm sorry, we were going to open up, but we can't now.
Yeah.
Until you are so broken.
Yep.
The economy is so broken, until everything is broken between the major corporates and the slave class down the bottom.
Yeah.
So it's just silly. Ladies and gentlemen of Australia, you really got to wake up. They're killing you.
What can they do?
They're destroying you.
South Australia, what can they do to help? I think I know what they can do, but...
Go on, give me...
No, look, I think...
Okay, no, I get this question a lot, every night, except for Thursdays. We do the Zooms.
Yeah.
What do we do? And I go, look, there's a whole bunch of people approaching this from different perspectives. The common law people, the grand jury people, the lawful rebellion people. Have I mentioned the lawful rebellion people? Yeah. There's a whole bunch of people, and we're all attacking the hill from different directions. Fill your boots, go for it. So if you want to do that stuff, great. We're not. We are building this party. Why? And I said it before, if we have a protest of 500 turn up, then we have a problem. If 5,000 turn up, the police have a problem. 50,000 turn up, the politicians have a problem. 500,000 turn up, we win.
Yep.
That's a peaceful withdrawal of consent will force their hand.
Yep.
It just will. They have no authority to do this. No more tugging the forelock. These people have no authority. Grow the party, stand up. Now, this is now imperative because there's going to be by-elections for health and family reasons. There'll be a whole lot of by-elections coming up, state and federal. We have to be ready to contest those as Australia won. I mentioned previously that I anticipate Scott Morrison going to the polls at the end of next year. That's a year away. We are in election mode right now. Right now we're in election mode, and we have to be ready because when the time comes and we vote and we get the balance of power, we hold 6 or 7 seats in the federal parliament, the whole world's going to change for the better. But panicking now, no. The Schwerpunkt, the critical point, is the next federal election. The other ones will be good for training, but that's it. We get the balance of power, the world changes in Australia's favour for the first time in a long time. And you've asked me the question and I've given you the answer. What are we going to do? Open up the economy, cut tax rates. The asinine, oh my goodness me. Dominic Perrottet, for those who don't know, is the Treasurer of New South Wales. Now, it was lauded as a wonderful step forward by the un-Australian. They should change their masthead to the un-Australian. And I've mentioned before that, in my opinion, the reason New South Wales hasn't shut down isn't because of Gladys is a genius at managing COVID. It's because there are a lot of powerful people in New South Wales who don't want their cash flow to be affected. It's pretty simple. But anyway, here we go. This is the the editorial for the Informed Australian. New South Wales borrows and builds to generate recovery and jobs. So Dropkick Josh Frydenberg puts down his budget, and then Dominic Perrottet puts out the New South Wales budget on Tuesday. And right at the first paragraph, he's cutting payroll tax on jobs. Now, payroll tax is a penalty you pay for employing people. So what a regressive tax is that? And it's currently 5.45% in New South Wales. He's made the brave step of cutting it to 4.85%. That's a 0.4% reduction in the payroll tax in New South Wales. And this is being lauded as some sort of genius economic move. Give me a break. Just kill it.
Yeah.
Why would you penalise someone for employing people?
Yeah.
It's like going to the barber saying, I'd like to grow my hair. Good, come here once a week and I'll cut an inch off it. And in 40 years, you'll have nice long hair. You see how it works?
Yeah.
So all this nonsense about Gladys is managing this and South Australia's managing that, it's all kabuki, it's all lies. It's nonsense.
Yeah.
So does South Australia need to lock down? No. Has Gladys managed New South Wales really well? No. If you stand back far enough, you can see the tectonic plates shifting, you know exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
And then you can dive into the detail and understand that it's just a joke.
Yeah, it really is. I get very frustrated watching how these politicians, they think they're the moral betters of us, basically. They look down on us and they just make all these stuff up so that could easily be avoided, but it makes you ask some serious questions. Are you that incompetent? Are you seriously that incompetent? Riccardo would argue no.
There's only 5 plausible explanations, and we've been through it.
That's right, we have.
There's only 5 plausible explanations, and they get to choose which one they are. They're either imbeciles, they're incompetent, they're lazy, they're corrupt, but you can't say corrupt. You just can't say corrupt. Well, they just don't care. So you pick it.
Yeah, guys.
Because all these problems can be solved.
Yeah.
And you're just not doing it.
And I've seen corrupt guys. I know I look like a young guy, not today because I look like, I haven't shaved for a month and I haven't. But I've seen some stuff too. And it hasn't been on a big scale in the big parties. I saw what happened in the CDP. We got rid of half the board. We reduced the average board age to 30 by 30 years. We got rid of the party agent because of corruption. I'm not afraid of the word because it was proven. And the truth's on our side, and we got rid of them. And I said it at the time, I knew a year ago, if this is what it's like for a small party, imagine what it's like for the big parties. That's what we're seeing. Branch stacking, these problems, they're not going to go away as long as people are switched off. And that's the purpose of the podcast, to wake you up to what's going on. If the media did their job, I wouldn't have a job. And thankfully, you guys have been very generous in giving me this job. Let's move on to something existential. Big tech. My gosh. This year, big tech have just gone completely insane. This week, we saw Senator Hawley, to his credit, confronting Mark Zuckerberg. Let's watch this video and let me know what you think. Because
please do.
I think it's very, very entertaining.
Your companies are the most powerful companies in the world, and I want to talk about how you're coordinating together to control information. In recent days, my office was contacted by a Facebook whistleblower, a former employee of the company with direct knowledge of the company's content moderation practices, and I want to start by talking about an internal platform called Tasks that Facebook uses to coordinate projects, including censorship. The Tasks platform allows Facebook employees to communicate about projects they're working on together. That includes Facebook's censorship teams, including the so-called community well-being team, the integrity team, and the hate speech engineering team, who all use the Task platform to discuss which individuals or hashtags or websites to ban. Now, Mr. Zuckerberg, you're familiar with the Task platform, aren't you?
How did you know about that?
Senator, we use the task system for, I think it's as you say, for people coordinating all kinds of work across the company, although I'm not sure if I'd agree with the characterization specifically around content moderation that you gave.
Well, let's get into that, and let me see if we can refresh your memory and provide folks at home watching with an example. Here over my shoulder is an example. It's a screenshot of the task platform in use. You'll notice if the cameras zoom in, several references to election integrity throughout on these lists of tasks. Again, this is shared across Facebook's sites, company locations, by working groups. What particularly intrigued me is that the platform reflects censorship input from Google and Twitter as well. So Facebook, as I understand it, Facebook censorship teams communicate with their counterparts at Twitter and Google and then enter those companies' suggestions for censorship onto the task platform so that Facebook can then follow up with them and effectively coordinate their censorship efforts. Mr. Zuckerberg, let me just ask you directly, under oath now, does Facebook coordinate its content moderation policies or efforts in any way with Google or Twitter?
Senator, let me be clear about this. We do coordinate on and share signals on security-related topics. So, for example, if there is signal around a terrorist attack or around child exploitation imagery or around a foreign government creating an influence operation, that is an area where the companies do share signals about what they see. But I think it's important to be very clear that that is distinct from the content moderation policies that we or the other companies have, where once we share intelligence or signals between the companies, each company makes its own assessment of the right way to address and deal with that information.
Well, I'm talking about content moderation. I'm talking about individuals, websites, hashtags, phrases to ban. Is it your testimony that you do not communicate with Twitter or Google about content moderation, about individuals, websites, phrases, hashtags to ban? Just yes or no. Do you communicate with Twitter or Google about coordinating your policies in this way?
Senator, we do not coordinate our policies.
Do your Facebook content moderation teams communicate with their counterparts at Twitter or Google?
Senator, I'm not aware of anything specific, but I think it would be probably pretty normal for people to talk to their peers and colleagues in the industry.
It would be normal, but you don't do it?
No, I'm saying that I'm not aware of any particular conversation, but I would expect that some level of communication probably happens. But that's different from coordinating what our policies are or our responses in specific instances.
Well, fortunately, I understand that the task platform is searchable. So will you provide a list of every mention of Google or Twitter from the tasks platform to this committee?
Senator, that's something that I can follow up with you and your team after on.
Well, yes or no, I'm sure you can follow up with the list, but why don't you commit while I've got you here under oath? It's so much better to do this under oath. Will you commit now to providing a list from the tasks platform of every mention of Google or Twitter?
Senator, respectfully, I'm without having looked into this, I'm not aware of any sensitivity that might exist around that, so I don't think it would be wise for me to commit to that right now,
so
but I would have to follow.
I wouldn't.
How many items on the task platform reflect that Facebook, Twitter, and Google are sharing information about websites or hashtags or platforms that they want to suppress?
Senator, I do not know.
Will you provide a list of every website and hashtag that Facebook content moderation teams have discussed banning on the task platform?
Senator, again, I would be happy to follow up with you or your team to discuss further how we might move forward on that. But without
will you commit to it here? Senator Cruz and Senator Lee both asked you for lists of individuals, websites, entities that have been subject to content moderation. You expressed doubt about whether any such information exists, but you've also now said that the task website, you've acknowledged the task platform exists, that it is searchable. So will you commit to providing the information you have logged on the task website about content moderation that your company has undertaken? Yes or no?
Senator, I think it would be better to follow up once I've had a chance to discuss with my team what any sensitivity around that would be, that that might prevent the kind of sharing that you're talking about. But once I've done that, I would be happy to follow up.
All right, so you won't commit to do it here. We could, of course, subpoena this information, but I'd much rather get it from you voluntarily. But I think let everybody take note that Mr. Zuckerberg has now repeatedly refused to provide information that he knows that he has and has now acknowledged that he has, that Tasks has under oath. Let me switch to different.
Magnificent.
Well done. Well done.
Now, wouldn't it be nice to have a politician with that level of intellect, moral courage, integrity, and doggedness?
You ask too much, Riccardo.
I do.
You ask too much.
We pay them
but you know what? The Donald taught them how to fight. He taught them how to fight. Lindsey Graham earned the name Lindsey Graham 2.0 when he was fighting for Brett Kavanaugh to be confirmed. He said, "This is a sham. What's going on?" And he's been forced into this position, and Donald Trump has sort of shown them the way. This is how you fight. It's okay to fight because the gloves are off now, guys. Are you going to fight or are you going to lose your country? And you know, where it's counted, we've seen a number of people like Ted Cruz, like Senator Hawley that we just saw, and it's been excellent. It's been excellent.
Again, just to bring, and you're exactly right, and to bring a couple of perspectives here to us, to our viewers. Has the ABC shown you this? Have the commercials shown you this? Peter Credlin, Alan Jones, Paul Murray, Andrew Bold, take your pick. Or is this new? Make up your own mind about how well-informed Australians are generally.
Yeah. In defence of Sky News, and guys, I'm not a big fan of Sky News, believe it or not. I think they need a bit of work, but they do, to their credit, cover a lot of these things. I have seen Alan Jones often talk about what we're about to look at, which is Trump's tax returns, the partisanship of censorship and big tech, and the problem with it. But my gosh, I think there's more they could be doing. And the other media outlets, the free-to-air ones, oh my gosh, and the ones you pay taxes to, I am coming down very hard on them, especially the ABC with $1 billion a year.
That's a very good point you make about those that do mention a few of these issues. What it highlights is the utter impotence of the entire system. Now, when they're not reporting it, they're part of the problem. And when they report a few of these issues, you realise how impotent they are. Because I've seen Alan Jones get quite exercised about certain issues. But ladies and gentlemen, sovereignty lies with you. Until you decide you've had enough, this will continue, this charade.
That's right.
We'll have people lying, cheating and stealing, people either not reporting it or reporting it. But either way, have you noticed that nothing changes? The economy is still locked down, you've still lost your job, people are still committing suicide, businesses with 25 to 30 years that have provided wealth and services and goods to just evaporated. This will continue until you wake up.
That's right.
Sovereignty lies with you. Don't rely on Alan Jones and Peter Credlin and Andrew Bolt and Paul Murray. Don't rely on them.
Yeah.
They've just got a job to do, and they're doing their job. Good luck to them.
Yeah.
ABC is completely failing in its responsibilities.
Yep.
Sovereignty lies with the people, and until the people decide for themselves, I've had enough, this will continue. This is a Darwinian process in action. The strongest will survive. And you have all the strength you need. All you need to do is band together and say stop.
Yeah.
And then everybody else has got to pay attention to you.
Yeah.
But until you do, it's just going to get worse.
Support the show, guys. Alternative media is certainly where we
I like citizen journalists better. Not alternative.
Yeah.
They're the legacy media. That's the right term. They're legacy media.
Yeah, that's right.
They're the old.
Yeah.
Legacy media. They're old and busted, and this is new and hot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, as I said before, guys, Monica Smith's doing an excellent job. She's got the same problems I got. It's funding. It's finding the time to get people on board to actually do this so that she can do other stuff, citizen journalism. And she said she wants a weatherman. She wants a whole bunch of things. She wants to replace the media completely.
That's what I said some time ago when you asked me what's the future of media in this country. You are. Can you imagine that? You go to YouTube and you have 150, 200, 300, 400 intelligent, smart, dynamic individuals giving you a piece of the action. Now, all you've got to do is donate $5 a week. And you give $5 a week across maybe five.
Mate, if they did $5 a month,
channels.
If they did $5 a month, that would be amazing.
They
don't realize the power of that.
The power that they have is the point, because you could contribute. Okay, let's that's an easy number. $5 a month. Pick 10 10 citizen journalists that you like, know and trust.
Yeah.
You spend more on coffee, but all of a sudden you've got 10 shows you go to and wow, you know more than anybody else in the office. You know more than anybody else on the factory floor. You know more than anybody else in the police station.
Yeah.
And bit by bit by bit, this is part of that empowering individuals.
That's right.
Across the nation. Imagine an entire Australian nation that knows exactly what's going on. Do you think Scott Morrison would like last 10 seconds? Now, add that, give them the power of recall elections. Oh, baby.
Oh, wow. Good God.
Baby. Now we're talking hot and cool. We got this really new hotness. We got this whole new approach to politics in Australia. We have an informed, intelligent electorate. And we have politicians who know that they got to answer to them, otherwise they're out of a job. And all of a sudden things are a whole lot better.
Yeah.
No COVID nonsense, no forced vaccinations.
Yeah. All comes back to technology.
It's in the people's hands.
Exactly.
It's in the people's hands.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got another one?
I do.
Good.
Ted Cruz. Don't we love watching politicians actually do their job? Because Ted Cruz has been there for a very long time. Ted Cruz absolutely smashes Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter, talking on Trump's tax returns. I think this is maybe a month ago, I think.
Did Twitter block the distribution of the New York Times' story a few weeks ago that purported to be based on copies of President Trump's tax returns?
We didn't find that a violation of our terms of service and this policy in particular because it was reporting about the material. It wasn't distributing the material.
Okay, well, that's actually not true. That they posted what they purported to be original source materials, and federal law, federal statute makes it a crime, a federal felony, to distribute someone's tax returns against their knowledge. So that material was based on something that was distributed in violation of federal law, and yet Twitter gleefully allowed people to circulate that. But when the article was critical of Joe Biden, Twitter engaged in rampant censorship and silencing.
And again, we recognized errors in that policy. We changed it within 24 hours. This is.
But you're still blocking the New York Post. You haven't changed it.
We have changed it. They can log into their account, delete the original tweet. That was.
You forced a Politico reporter to take down his post about the New York Post as well. Is that correct?
Within that 24-hour period, yes. But we, as the policy has changed, anyone can tweet.
So Twitter takes the view you can censor the New York Post, you can censor Politico, presumably you can censor the New York Times or any other media outlet. Mr. Dorsey, who the hell elected you and put you in charge of what the media are allowed to report and what the American people are allowed to hear? And why do you persist in behaving as a Democratic super PAC, silencing views to the contrary of your political beliefs?
Let's give Mr. Dorsey a few seconds to answer that, and then we'll have to conclude this segment.
Well, we're not doing that, and this is why I opened this hearing with calls for more transparency. We realize we need to earn trust more. We realize that more accountability is needed to show our intentions and to show the outcomes.
Thank you,
so
Senator.
I hear the concerns and acknowledge them, but we want to fix it with more transparency.
You don't hear crap, Jack. Honestly, I watched I think it was a 3-hour podcast on Joe Rogan in classic fashion. We had Tim Pool, the beanie-wearing guy I always cite. Excellent work, Tim. Guy voted for Trump this year, voted for Bernie in 2016. He would have voted for Bernie. And he sat down with Jack Dorsey and Vijaya, who's one of the lawyers for Jack that works as a part of their team there. For 3 hours, they went through all of these examples on Joe Rogan's podcast of how their rules directly censor conservatives. It's in the rules. And Jack said the same thing. We're trying to be more transparent. We're trying to this, we're trying to that. This is over a year ago, guys. This is over a year ago. And Jack shit's changed. But in this particular situation, Jack Dorsey doesn't realize that his ideological bent is unique. It's against conservatives. When you he didn't understand this concept, and Tim Pool explained it very well. When your rules say you cannot dead name someone, what's dead naming? Dead naming is where someone is a part of the trans community. They're a male and then they get changed. They turn into a female. They go through the surgery. If you call them by their original name, maybe it's Steve rather than their new name, then that's called dead naming. You can be banned on Twitter right now, Riccardo. If someone tweets at you and they happen to be a trans individual, they have special rights. They are in a special class. That is an ideological bent. I mean, look at the progressive Deborah So. She's a sex biologist, and she's looked at this. She's written an excellent book on this, and the science is not settled on this. Okay, the science is not settled. It doesn't matter if Twitter has these rules. They're biased against conservatives. So keep that in mind when Jack says we're trying to be more transparent for this and that. Riccardo, this is an existential problem, and I don't know if you've got any solutions on big tech, but it needs to be addressed. This can throw out any future elections out.
Well, there is an immediate one they're trying in the US. As you know, a platform that just delivers messages cannot be held liable for the messages. That's why you see when you watch a video, the ideas or the messages are not endorsed by us. Nothing to do with us. We're just don't shoot us. We're just the piano player, sort of thing. And that's a reasonable position to protect a platform. Otherwise, they can be sued out of existence. However, if they play the role of publisher in that they edit or shape the content, the rules now change. A publisher is legally responsible for what comes out. Now, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube consider themselves just content providers, and so they enjoy legal protection from being sued. Yet, strangely enough, on Facebook, and a woman was sued. There was somebody posted a post on her Facebook page months and months and months earlier. She didn't even know it was there, didn't care, and she was successfully sued by having that on her page.
That's right.
So, I'm not sure how far they've progressed in the United States with this, but the moment Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook become publishers by their actions, not by forget what they say. There's a set of criteria by which you are now. If you do these following steps or take these actions, you are considered a publisher.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like A1.
Yeah.
If you do this, you are considered a political party. You can call yourself anything you want to, but if you do all of these things, you are a political party and therefore subject to the Australian Electoral Commission Act. Okay, good. Australian Electoral Act. The moment they start meeting the criteria for a publisher and they get sued, that'll blow them out of the water. And all of a sudden they will learn that free speech is free speech. And if they want to be a content provider, any example of censorship or shaping the message or editorializing at all makes them a publisher. And Dorsey should spend the rest of his life in jail. So should that imbecile Zuckerberg. Because you saw it. And the face you see there with the weasel words, that was Angus Campbell. It's the same stuff. It's a tap dance to bad music. They won't tell you the truth. They won't explain clearly and unequivocally what the position is. But that's one thing that we can do. We sue the arse off them, and we just destroy them. Yeah. So you're a content provider, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like the Sony Corporation, they produce DVDs and videos. You can't sue Sony. They just deliver.
Yeah.
Sue them. Destroy them. Until they clean up their act. Lock up a few for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. I will push back on this. I suspect that, because I do have some knowledge on the topic. So the reason why they're protected right now as it stands is the legislators wrote into law this thing called Section 230, which protects them as a platform to have some publisher rights. So they get the best of both worlds. Well, Trump's come out and said, repeal Section 230.
Absolutely.
He wants to get rid of the protections completely. Now, I'll be honest, guys. You know, there are some things where I'm certain that we need to do, like tax reform, for example. We need a flat tax. That'll be great for the economy. I'm not certain about this topic. I'm not sure the path forward. Section 230 needs to be either reformed or repealed. This is why. If Facebook, like what we saw, if we have a genuine situation where there's a genuine violence taking place or a genuine terrorist attack and it's being live streamed and it's going around the world and the shock content's there and it encourages other people to do similar things, I do think that these tech platforms should have the right to take those things down immediately so that the person doesn't get the attention that they're looking for, that they're after, so other people will be deterred. But I think that what it's become now, you heard Zuckerberg say it before, the definition has been so wide now, so widespread, that it's such a big problem. So there needs to be some censorship, but not others. I've suggested that maybe we need something like an Internet Bill of Rights, that would protect free speech. But as I said, this is something I'm still thinking through, and I suspect it's going to take us a number of years before we get this right. It's still very new technology.
I have no problem with that at all. But it's an old problem. This is an old problem that goes back to the days of ancient Greece. And it's a policy battle. It's always between autonomy and the public good. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Now, what's happened is because of corrupted politicians, this line has been pushed across in favour of people like Dorsey and Zuckerberg, who are abusing it mercilessly. Now, I agree with what you're saying. There's a line. Now, what they want the line way up here, so they get to shape the world. And I'd like the line way back up here.
Yeah.
And if I want to call, Josh Frydenberg an imbecile or a dropkick, suck it up, Joshy. You called Trump a dropkick, so right back at you.
Yeah.
If it's slander, then that's a separate matter.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are limits to this line.
Yeah.
But that hypocrite knows exactly what's going on. It's been delivered by crooked politicians. It's been exploited. Nobody's doing anything about it since Trump turned up. And so the line's got to come right back up here. And I agree with you. Snuff movies are not what you want access to. Unless it's a means by which you can catch the bastards.
Yeah.
But the fact is the line is in exactly the wrong place. And it's got to be brought right back again.
Interesting. Well, guys, that wraps it up this week. We tried to cover as much as we could. I think we're about to hit an hour 45 minutes. This podcast is growing. There are a number of things we wanted to cover we didn't get a chance to. Who knows? If the funding's there, guys, there might be a possibility we make 2 a week and then maybe 3 a week or 4 a week or weekdays. But we want to make sure that we keep this quality going, and we're very happy with the views so far. I mean, 350,000 views in 5 or 6 days it's not bad. I mean, there are a lot of shows that don't get that, guys. There's a lot of shows that don't get that on our channels. So keep subscribing, keep sharing. We'd be nothing without the sharing. Don't underestimate that. People do watch what you do on your Facebook, even though they may not like it. And on top of that, keep the donations coming. It's been really helpful in ensuring that I have certainty into 2021, and I'll continue to work that out over the next month and a half. Stay tuned. We'll have more details on what's happening with this investigation in Afghanistan and the report. And you guys have a great week. Any final comments, Riccardo?
No, more strength to your arm, Joel. Thanks, mate, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for your time.